Hey everyone, before we start, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this. The laughter that evening roared through the ballroom, booming like distant thunder and rippling across the polished floor. It mixed with the chatter of 100 voices, the clinking of crystal, and the mellow pulse of a jazz melody floating from the corner stage. I remember holding my glass of wine, smiling at something I barely heard, pretending to laugh with everyone else, until I saw him. Daniel. He was standing by the entrance, half swallowed by shadow, his eyes fixed on me. For a brief moment, I thought I imagined him. He shouldn't have been there. It was my company's annual gala, employees and approved guests only. I told him that. Yet there he was, shoulders squared, face unreadable, gaze unwavering. And then it struck me what he had seen. Greg's hand was still resting on the small of my back. A harmless touch, I told myself, professional, casual. But Daniel knew better. I watched the flicker of realization cross his face, saw his jaw tighten, his chest rise and fall with deliberate control. He didn't yell. He didn't make a scene. He simply turned around and walked out. That quiet departure hurt more than any outburst could have. Just an hour earlier, the night had been flawless. Greg had been his usual captivating self, effortlessly charming, commanding attention with every clever remark. I'd worked under him for 3 years. He'd been my mentor, my supporter, and lately, something far more complicated. It hadn't started as an affair. It began with long nights at the office, shared meals, laughter that lingered a little too long. I told myself it was harmless. Meanwhile, Daniel had grown distant, buried in his construction projects, coming home late, bone-tired and wordless. Somewhere along the line, I started confusing Greg's attention for affection. But none of that mattered once I saw Daniel leave. I called him as soon as I got in the car, again and again. No answer. I left early, ignoring my coworkers' curious stares. When I pulled into the driveway, his truck was gone. The house was dark, hollow. His shoes were missing from the entryway. The framed photo from our wedding, the one where flower petals rained down around us, was gone too. On the bed lay a single folded note. Don't call me. That was all. No accusations, no anger. Just finality, sharp and clean, slicing through every excuse I tried to build. I sank to the floor and cried until my throat burned. 3 days went by. No word. I called his sister, his best friend, even his site manager. They all said the same thing. He's quiet, but he's hurting. The silence was unbearable. His absence filled every inch of the house. His coffee mug still sat by the sink. His scent still clung faintly to the air. Every morning, I woke hoping to hear the door open, to see him walk back in. But he never did. That's when I finally understood the kind of man Daniel was, the kind who didn't explode when betrayed, the kind who simply left and never looked back. On the 4th day, Greg showed up at my door. He looked uneasy, hands buried deep in his pockets, his confidence stripped away. I just wanted to check on you, he said softly. Are you okay? I stared at him, realizing how different everything felt now. The sight of him, once comforting, now made my stomach twist. He saw us, I whispered. Daniel saw you touch me. Greg exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. Emma, it's not a big deal. He'll calm down. He just needs time. I almost laughed bitterly. You don't know him. He's not coming back. When he reached out, I stepped back. Whatever warmth I once felt had turned cold. Please leave, I said quietly. You've done enough. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded and walked away. The door clicked shut behind him, and the silence that followed was deafening. 2 weeks crawled by. Still nothing from Daniel. Then one morning, his sister called. Her voice was hesitant, careful. He's staying at a motel by the lake, she said. He doesn't want to see anyone. He just said you're broken. That word split something inside me. That night, I drove to the lake. His truck sat outside one of the small cabins, its windows fogged with condensation. I stood there for what felt like forever before I found the courage to knock. When the door opened, I barely recognized him. His eyes were red, his face unshaven, his posture heavy with exhaustion. But what scared me wasn't the anger, it was the emptiness. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice low and hoarse. I needed to see you, I said. Please, Daniel, just listen. Nothing happened with Greg. It was just... He gave a short, bitter laugh. Don't. I saw enough. Daniel, I made a mistake, I cried. I was lonely. His voice sharpened. Lonely? So that's why you let another man touch you in front of everyone. It wasn't like that, I pleaded. It was exactly like that. His eyes glistened. Not with rage, but with quiet, aching pain. I loved you, Emma. God, I tried. I worked myself raw to build something for us. And you, his voice faltered. You made me the fool. I wiped my tears and whispered, tell me how to fix this. You can't. And then he closed the door. After that night, time blurred. I stopped counting the days. Daniel filed for divorce and I didn't fight it. My calls went straight to voicemail. My messages were never read. The letters I sent came back unopened. Greg reached out a few times, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. His name alone filled me with disgust. Whatever I thought I'd felt for him had burned away, leaving only guilt. I quit my job, sold the house, and moved into a small apartment with peeling walls and thin light. Every night I sat by the window, replaying that moment in the ballroom, Daniel's eyes meeting mine across the room, full of disbelief and heartbreak. 6 months passed. One quiet afternoon I saw him again. It was at the grocery store, of all places. I was reaching for a carton of milk when I froze. There he was, just a few aisles away. He looked different, healthier. His beard was trimmed, his skin tanned, his movements lighter somehow. He looked free. And then I saw her. A woman stood beside him, smiling at something he said. She laughed softly, her hand brushing against his arm. It was such a small gesture, but it struck me like a blow. He turned and saw me. For a single heartbeat, our eyes locked. No hatred, no bitterness, just calm acceptance. He gave me a small, polite nod, then turned back to the woman. His hand rested gently on the small of her back, the same way Greg's had once rested on mine. But this time, it wasn't hollow. It was real. That was the moment I knew it was truly over. A year has passed since that night. People love to say time heals everything. I don't believe that anymore. Time doesn't heal. It dulls the ache just enough for you to move through the day. You learn to function around the wound. I'm rebuilding piece by piece. Therapy helps. So does work. Something simple, quiet. My life is smaller now, but steadier. I tell myself I've learned. But some wounds don't close. They just fade into silence. Sometimes, on my drive home, I pass by that old ballroom. I can almost hear the laughter again. See the golden light spilling across the floor. Feel the moment everything fell apart. I still see Daniel walking away, his silent exit cutting clean through the noise. That silence follows me everywhere. A few months ago, an envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, no markings, just my name and handwriting I recognized instantly. Inside was the missing wedding photo, the one taken just after we'd said our vows, with rose petals tumbling through the air and sunlight catching his smile. My hands trembled as I turned it over. On the back, written in Daniel's steady handwriting, were 3 simple words. I did love you. I sat there for hours, staring at the picture, tracing the lines of our faces. The memory felt like something distant and fragile, a dream dissolving at dawn. That message, those 3 words, were softer than forgiveness, but heavier than goodbye. It hit me then what real love truly is. It doesn't demand attention or shout to be heard. It doesn't beg or threaten or plead. It exists quietly, steadfast, deep and certain. And when it's gone, it doesn't slam the door behind it. It just leaves, softly, without a word, walking away from a room full of laughter. And once it's gone, it never comes back.